Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle.
Hey, this is Frank Capra, the Guinness World Records fastest talking woman.
Get connected on Hollywood Connections, sponsored by SunkissCharters.com, every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. right here on the TAN Talk Radio Network.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's TAN Talk Radio Network.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break.
It's time to work on becoming an actor with David Sarcusa. David started his acting, screenwriting, and movie production career in 2021, producing his first full-length feature film, which he wrote, produced, and starred in The Uncivil War, America Divided, within a year of entering the business. And he's the host of Becoming an Actor on the TAN Talk Radio Network. Now, here's your local, not yet famous, not quite Hollywood star, David Sarcusa.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Hey, welcome everyone to a post-Christmas Becoming an Actor on the TAN Talk Radio Network on 1340 AM and 106.1 FM. I don't know if I actually need to say that. You probably know where you're at already if you're listening, but it sounds good whenever I throw that in there. I'm your host, David Sarcusa, and today I am going to be talking with an amazing casting director, Carly Lowland. Woo! She's going to be here any second, which is good anyway, because I did want to talk to you about a few things before Carly got into her seat. So that is no problem. Carly Lowland, ringer of KLR Creative Group. She'll be here in a minute. To speak with Carly, or, if you want to talk to me, I know usually not the case, but just in case you want to talk to me, the call-in number is 727-441-3000. There's Carly. Here she comes. Come on in. Oh, look at that. We're even matching. We got the biker jackets on. Nice. I like it. Grab some headphones and have a seat. And we'll say hi to you in a second. So, all right. Anyway, before we get going here, so I was on a set. Gotta get rid of my Tic Tacs. Hold on a second. That is not a good way to start the show. Should have already chewed those up. So I was on set this week. I always love talking to you all anytime I am on set. And this was a really cool one. Savage. And I can't give much away about this movie because I don't really know much about it. I was there for one day. It was awesome, though. It's some type of a cage fight or an underground fight. I don't know. It was really cool. We're there screaming, cheering for the actors as they're going through their fight sequence. So cool. I always talk about the things that I learned on set. Never really thought about this. In fact, I went home and I told my son, because he said, "You lost your voice, Dad." I said, "You're right." I said, "Wow, if I was one of the important actors in this one," which I was, because I was an extra, very important in every film. But if I was one of the really important actors in this one, then how would I have come back the next day? Because that's interesting. It's not like you can take a day off. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was very hoarse that night. And I was only there for a couple of hours, 4 or 5 hours, but I was screaming like crazy, and it was a lot of fun. And Cody Bobet was on set. He was one of the main guys, and I hope I'm saying that last name correctly, because he is a great guy, but oh my God, he's huge. That guy is freaking huge. And I'm an actor, so I'm fairly vain, and I am always very excited about how I take care of my body, and I love being an athlete and all that stuff. But, standing next to that guy, oh my God, I'm usually not jealous of other men, but that guy, man, it was like someone had sculpted the little six-pack onto his chest. It was unbelievable. I forgot to ask him afterwards, what exactly does he do? Other than being like 10 or 20 years younger than me, there must be something. The guy was just ripped. Ryan Justice was the director on that film. Fantastic director. How do I know? I don't really know, but he was awesome. He was running around. He was high-fiving all the extras. He had energy. I have no idea whether he was getting the best out of the actors or he was getting the best shots from his DP or what. But to me, that was awesome. Just the enthusiasm that he brought to the set, the excitement, because your extras are honestly, not joking around, they're a big part of your set. If you got extras just standing on the set and they're dead and they're not bringing any energy, it's tough for the main actors to have energy, and it's tough for them to look good. So for him to go around and make the extras feel like they really are important for being there, I thought he did a fantastic job. My buddy Pat Quinn was there as an extra. That's always fun to be on set with a friend. Corin Nemec was the main star on the film. He was actually supposed to be in my film. Didn't end up happening for one reason or another. But he's the big star. Well, I say the big star. I wouldn't say that to Cody again. Guy's just huge. And that was at Coastal Creative. So the last couple of weeks, and Carly can probably yell at me for this in a little bit here, but I've been talking about how Florida is not Hollywood. We don't have all of the amazing facilities that they have in Hollywood. We got a lot of other stuff. And my point is always, don't try to be Hollywood. Florida is different from Hollywood. We're not Hollywood. We've got a lot of great stuff, but I usually talk about the facilities. Well, right after saying that, I'm at Coastal Creative, and this place is beautiful. Have you been to Coastal Creative?
I have not, but I've worked out of their studio as far as sitting talent. Oh, I need to get a little closer.
She's just too laid back. Carly's
I'm not the talent, so this isn't my deal.
That's okay. So I got to tell you, this place, phenomenal. Down in St. Pete, beautiful facility. I had just been at Lightwave Media for a table read, and I apologize. I butchered your guy's name last week. Deepest apologies. The worst thing you can do is mess up on someone's name. So big apologies for that. So sorry, because that also a beautiful facility. Yeah. So I know that you were at that one. Gorgeous place. I didn't get the full tour of that one because I was kind of in and out for the table read. But you saw more of the facility, right? Yeah,
they have a full LED volume. Like it's insane. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Everyone hold on 1 second here.
What am I doing wrong? Oh.
There we go. I'm going to make you talk into that microphone. Don't be shy.
All right.
Come on, Carly. Let the world hear you. So, yeah, beautiful facility at Lightwave Media. And then just recently, I was at Blue Water Media. So, again, I talk about the fact that Florida's not Hollywood. We don't have all these incredible facilities. And then I contradict myself because I'm like, these are 3 beautiful studios that we have right here in the Clearwater, St. Pete area. Gorgeous studios. And Cameron Brumbelow has, does he have ownership, do you know, in Lightwave Media? Or was
he just he does have his own production company.
He's got his own production company. Okay. All right. So I can't. I ruin everything. So sorry, Cameron. Now I'm ruining things for you. So, but you guys were a big part of the reason I was there and got to experience it. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So there you go. That's my little intro into the world of we're not Hollywood, but don't count Florida out. Man, I would love to see us get some more productions here. And part of how we're going to get more productions here and more big names here, I brought Carly Lolan-Ringer into the studio. So how's that for an introduction, Carly?
Thank you.
She's speechless. All she can say is thank you. So Carly, before we kind of get into things here, why don't you do me a favor and just kind of introduce yourself to the audience, if you would.
Okay. My name is Carly Lolan-Ringer. I am a casting director, previously an agent. I've been in the industry for almost 15 years now. A lot of people will look at me and they're like, oh, well, you still kind of look fairly young. Well, I started when I was a kid. So that is why I was able to grow my roots at a young age and make a lot of connections, meet a lot of people, meet the right people at the right time in the right places, which I do value that in my journey because I understand that's not, a gift most are blessed with, which is also why I've used, scrambling my words here, try to use my journey to be that for other people and helping, be somebody that connects dots and makes connections and helps people network, especially in the local community here, because as you mentioned, we aren't Hollywood. So, the more, connecting puzzle piece type people that we have, I think the more that we all grow and the more that the local industry expands. So with all of that being said, I've had the privilege to work with the majority of kind of everyone here. And that's led me to work with clients from Netflix, Hallmark, Lifetime, Lionsgate, the list, it goes on. But mostly the people are what has all made it really worthwhile and kept me doing what I'm doing.
So before you go away from that, because I was just talking about Hollywood, okay,
Yes.
and that we're not Hollywood, but you just rattled off a lot of big names.
Yeah.
Are those big names here in Florida? Do you work with a lot of them in Florida, or do you find yourself having to go out of state to work with those?
So now, I'm in a position with my business where I work across the country. A lot of the clients I just mentioned, though, I actually did get my foot in the door with by living in Florida. But those projects typically aren't sold for distro until the back end. So you might be making a project, but you don't know where it's going to land.
Okay, so it could start in Florida.
It could start,
and
yeah,
in
it could start anywhere.
Could start in California and end in Florida.
Yeah, there was a film, Suncoast, that I did. The majority of it filmed in North Carolina. And then we did the rest of it in Tampa. Or I didn't work on the film, but the project with Emily Blunt. That was another one. I don't know if you know the name of it or not. But
No.
recently it did film.
Okay.
And recently it did air. But with that said, they shot it in different areas. So.
Okay. So, that's kind of funny that you say, oh, this film, and do you know the name of that one? Do they all start running together after a while? You've probably been doing, how long did you say you've been doing this?
Well, I've been in the industry for 15 years, but as far as my casting career, really since COVID, which sounds kind of backwards compared to a lot of people's journey, but I've done almost, I would say, 50 films since COVID actually started, which again is very different than a lot of other people's journey. So yeah, they definitely run together.
That's great. Obviously, you're not seeing a big slowdown then since COVID to get 50 films in.
No,
in 2-3 years. That's great, right?
Yeah, and then with the strikes on top of that, obviously that's made things a lot slower for everyone. But I don't know, somebody's looking out for me.
That's fantastic. That's great. Do you primarily work SAG, independent? Does it matter?
A little bit of both. It really just depends on, who's asking me if I want to do their project and if I want to say yes.
Okay. Now, that's a good question. Do you pass on a lot of deals?
There are some, depending on, maybe the content or, I like to be realistic as well. If I can't fulfill the ask, I'm, always very upfront, very honest. And, I just say, hey, I don't think I'm the right person for the job. I'm also all about shouting out, other phenomenal casting directors and, even agencies in the area that people can go to. So no, it's not always a yes.
Okay. That is great, because I always say, and I don't know if Hollywood is like this or not, but I feel like in Florida, we're all always looking out for each other. I don't know how many times I've had people recommend me to a film or, say, hey, you should look at this one. Rob Riddell does that all the time. Kylie Nicole Peck does that all the time. My business partner, Cookie Reyes, does that. And she's my business partner. She has to. But the point is, people are always looking out for each other. Do you feel that there's that same kind of affinity between casting directors? Do you feel like you all kind of, or is it a little bit more dog eat dog in that world?
Yes and no. I think that, trying to think of the right way to answer this. Producers, for example, you're a producer now. You guys want to make movies, and you're not really up against each other because you're all creating something. Whereas as a casting director, we more so want to know, okay, what casting director is that producer going to use? So while I think it's really important to be unified, and I wish there was a lot more of it, you don't see it as often, I think, no matter what market you're in, Atlanta, New York, Hollywood. But I think, I'm a part of the Casting Society of America, and something, we recently spoke on in one of our meetings was trying to create more of that, unification, just because why not?
Right.
There's literally enough to go around.
Gotcha. That's great. It's funny. So the producers, again, we do compete against each other because we are creating material. But a lot of the times there are people out there that are looking for producers to produce their film. Hey, I've got this idea. I want to get this done. I need a production company. So we do go up against each other in that respect. So to me, sometimes it is tough because obviously you want every deal that comes along, right? You want to be able to say, yes, I can produce every film. But just like you said, sometimes there are things that you can't get done. And it is nice to have someone else that you can say, hey, here's another production company that I can go to and I can say, hey, why don't you guys take this one? I can't fulfill it, or I'm already doing something. So, for me, I feel like a lot of the times you have to develop those relationships. And that's something that you were talking about. You said, the biggest thing for you has been the relationships. So I would imagine it's the same thing with casting directors. Are there a billion casting directors out there? I mean, you throw a nickel and you're going to hit a producer. Is that the same with casting directors?
I would say no. I mean, there's definitely a lot of them, but there's different casting directors for. I keep doing this wrong. Do I need to sit up or?
Just pull the mic towards you a little bit. I just want to make sure that everyone hears you.
All right.
So you're local. So there you go.
There's different casting directors for different types of stuff throughout our entertainment industry. So, TV, film, obviously there's the modeling side of things. There's non-union, industrial. I mean, it really varies. Yeah.
It's a little bit of everything. Okay. So what do you like to focus on? Do you have an industry that you prefer? Do you care if it's commercial? Do you care if it's film?
I really like film. I really do like film. I feel like that's kind of a cliche answer, but I think we all are working towards a goal, and that is one of the things that brings us all together. So absolutely film for sure.
How about, have you done any music videos?
Yeah, I have done some country music videos. I've done stuff in fashion. You name it. I was going to say you name it. I've probably done it. That is not true. A couple things started crossing my mind there. I'm like, no, I've not done that. But no, I've done a lot of things.
You've done a lot. Okay. And I apologize. I asked if you had done music videos and you said country, but that doesn't count as music. So.
I mean, it depends on what you're into. Once again,
I'm just kidding. I'm not a music. I'm not a country music fan. My wife loves country. That's not really my thing. So, but yes. So music videos. I did one music video, and actually it got like 20 million hits or something. Carlos Vives. I had no idea. Are you familiar with him?
I don't.
I know. I didn't know him either. And my wife, who is Spanish, she said, "Oh my God, Carlos Vives, he's huge in the Hispanic world." I said, "Oh, okay, great." And I didn't believe it until I saw all the views. And I said, "Wow, this guy's unbelievable." So it was kind of funny because getting into the industry, I never even thought about music videos. And it was just kind of something that came across my desk. And I said, oh yeah, I'll put in an application for this, see if I could get it. And I ended up getting it. And so it was really cool.
Nice.
Got to play the bald goalkeeper. So that was fun. All right. So you said doesn't really make a difference to you, SAG or non-union, if they want you. Do you find that it's easier to work a deal that is either SAG or non-union, or that's not really much of a issue either?
I don't know if it's so much easier or not, as much as having the structure. I think with SAG that it provides, everything's kind of laid out for you. I think it has a lot to do with, who the production team, who they want to go out to, if those actors are SAG or not, to kind of make the puzzles fit per the project.
Do you feel it's more professional because it's SAG?
I mean, there are pros.
All right. Now, remember, I'm non-union here, so don't insult me.
No, I mean, there definitely are pros. I think, it's really great for, the crew. I mean, there's a lot of pros.
Okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, then I would imagine there are some negatives as well. And of course, nobody wants to.
Well, there's negatives in anything.
Right. So. Exactly. Right. So, like you said, it's all laid out, the paperwork. So on the other side, people might look at it and say, the paperwork, it's intensive paperwork. There's a lot to it. You got to dot all the I's, cross all the T's. But then you have the pros on the other side. I mean,
if you have a
structure.
Crew that knows what they're doing, then the job can be very easy for everyone.
Okay, that's very well said.
That for me, that's a pro to non-union work.
That's a pro to non-union work.
Yeah, it's a pro to non-union work when you hire a crew that knows what they're doing.
Okay, gotcha. But if they don't know what they're doing, then it can be a bit disastrous and make you want to pull your hair out if you have any left.
I would say so, because as a casting director, my job is to deal with the talent. And sometimes I find I'm being asked questions. Okay, well, how do we do this? And how do we do that? I'm like, that's not my hat.
Gotcha.
Just because I know the answers doesn't mean you deserve them.
I gotcha. Okay. So I must have driven you crazy when I hired you. So for those of you who don't know, I hired Carly when I did my first film on Civil War, America Divided. Well, I say my first film, my only film to date, although I'm getting ready this year to do some more. So I hired you to help out, and I know I hit you with a bunch of questions because I said, I hired her for this, and I probably asked you 1,000 questions that have nothing to do with being a casting director. Go ahead, you can.
No,
say
you were just like, I want to make a movie. This is the date I'm going to do it, and I'm like, are you sure you want to do it by this date? And he's like, yep, that's what I'm like. Okay, all right, let's see it. And in the back of my mind, I was like, is this going to happen? But no, you did it, and you blew it out the water. And I mean, I can't wait to see the final product.
That's funny. So yes, I'm very laid back in a lot of ways. Sometimes though, I can be very stubborn, which I guess, that's probably true for all of us. And for some reason, I had it in my mind that we had to do it by a certain date. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was because I didn't want it to get much colder. And because I don't like cold weather. So I don't know that. I'll just go with that was the reason, but we did. We had a drop dead date that we wanted to hit, and we were actually only a week late on that. But otherwise, felt like the production went off without a hitch, and you were a fantastic part of that, and I really appreciated you guys helping me out with that. So that was great. Okay, you already talked a little bit about the post-pandemic world, but without me asking any questions specifically about it. How has it changed the world for you? And I know you said you kind of started the casting director thing afterwards, but just in the whole acting crew world and every part of the entertainment industry, how has it really affected you?
For me, it's made my life easier, which I think talking about the pandemic, that's a very touchy subject for a lot of people, and anything that comes out of my mouth as I'm explaining my side of it, I do say this respectfully to everyone, regardless on what side of the fence, that you personally fall on. We have horses, my wife and I, and whenever we got together, we couldn't bring, the horse farm to the city. And so we were faced with the decision, okay, like we kind of like each other. What are we going to do with our lives? How are we going to make this work? I'm like, okay, well, we can't put a farm in the city. So what are you going to do, Carly? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move to the farm. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to do that successfully. It's proven itself to be true, being able to work from the comfort of my home office. That's not something everyone is comfortable with. That's not something, everyone likes doing. I think that one of the positive takeaways through what we cumulatively experienced with COVID was this new virtual reality that never totally existed before. I think we were always walking this fine line between, Skype and, just even in business meetings, like, can you actually work from home? Can it be effective? Can it be, all of these things? And COVID kind of answered that question for us. Now, that's not to say that virtual reality is the only way of doing things, but I think it's given specifically actors who may not have had the opportunity before to be seen, to be heard. Say you live in, the middle of Texas where there is no market. Well, I get to see what you do now. I get to see what you bring to the table. And for me, that's really cool as a casting director.
So you feel like it's opened up a lot more doors, a lot of parts of the country that you wouldn't have been able to go mining for talent, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's given resources to people who didn't really have them. And I think it's put a lot of money back into actors' pockets in regard to those trying to build, with where they are. So they're not spending money on flying out to LA for all of the auditions or, those types of things. And I've been blessed in my situation to still be a casting director that gets to work out of New York and that gets to work out of Los Angeles. Again, being able to work remote. So
Did that lead to you becoming a casting director, or was that already a path that you were headed towards or would have gone regardless?
It's something that was in the works a few years prior, and I started doing some background casting kind of as I was phasing out of being an agent, and I knew kind of the direction things were going, with my wife and I at that time, being engaged and planning life together and that sort of thing. So one of the films I was doing as COVID became a pandemic was Lady of the Manor. It was one of the last 3 films wrapped as COVID became a pandemic. Like it was that February 29th or whatever the date was, where we're like, okay, guys, it's about to shut down. And that was one of my biggest projects yet too. So I was like, oh man, my career's over before it started. And, we did take some downtime, but I mean, as soon as things started moving again, they started moving.
You took downtime at that time? That's crazy. Nobody else did. I mean, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
It was the wildest thing.
I'm just kidding. No, everybody took downtime. Yeah, obviously, at that time, it was difficult to move. I'm a real pain in the butt. So I
used it to build my brand, and I think a lot of actors that we see right now who are up and coming, or even in the local community, use that time to make themselves stronger. Use that time to make themselves better to be where we all are now.
Right. It's funny. They always talk about the companies that came out of like the Great Depression or something. This company started during the Great Depression. Look at them now. They're huge. So you think that there were a lot of actors and crew members that kind of sprang out of the COVID disaster, if you will?
Oh, absolutely. It actually, I know this is kind of off topic, but it reminds me of, what I've heard of some of the strongest entrepreneurs were C students, because they were the ones that were forced to figure it out. And I feel like that's what happened to me, and that's what happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, I was a C student.
Yeah, and look at you.
Look at me now. I got my own radio show with Carly Ringer in the studio. So if you want to give a call in and talk to her, 727-441-3000. A couple of people here making some comments. Jose listening. Hi to Kylie and Zach. Jose's saying hi to people on saying KLR Creative is cool. So thanks. Jose likes you. So good job, Jose. I don't know where everybody else is. Call in, say hi to Carly, talk to her. And there's Lisa Sebo.
What's up, Lisa?
So,
where's the camera?
The camera's up there someplace. Wave. Hi. Let's see. Oh, you're backed away so much. You got to get into the camera.
This is why I am behind.
So
I'm behind the camera.
Come on, jump in here. All right. Well, at least lean forward and wave to everyone. Lean this way.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, now we can see you. There you go.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. That's right. I guess we could probably turn the camera. I don't even know.
I don't want to see myself.
Oh, okay. She doesn't want to be seen anyway.
Break my glasses.
That works great. So, okay. So yeah, I agree. I think the transformation after COVID was good for the industry. I don't think it was bad at all. I think it's like anything, necessity is the mother of invention. It forces people to do stuff. A lot of the dinosaurs, old people like me, we never would have gotten onto Zoom calls. We wouldn't have learned how to do all these things. I mean, you still see a lot of the older actors or crew members fumbling with it. Am I on? Can you see me? And they're waving, and you still have that sort of thing. But nowhere near what it would have been if it had been a gradual transition had COVID not forced it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could sit here and talk about the bad things all day long. But, in order to move forward, we have to look at the bright side because it was an awful time. A lot of bad. I mean, it wasn't good. But, we had to figure out how to move forward. And I think as a country, as a world, we did that.
That's right. And we're beyond it now. So given that, do you still ever hold casting calls in person?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that contingent on the project, there's absolutely a space for that. I'm definitely pro in-person casting, but it really just depends on what's going on, where I'm at the time, where the project is at the time. I really like doing in-person live stuff for reality TV because, you're not really working with actors in those type of situations. So you want to see everything about them.
Personality.
Yeah, exactly. Personality, look, chemistry, that sort of thing. I find that it's easier that way with actors. When you're working with people who are trained, who are qualified to actually be auditioning, a lot of times they're able to easily get on tape because they know what they're doing.
Mm. Do you feel the personality comes through a lot more a lot more in person than over a tape especially for, I would say, the reality people?
I would say it really depends on the person. But I mean, when you're talking about TV and film, my, I guess, answer to that would be a little different than maybe what some other casting directors may even say, because I actually like seeing people on tape because that's more than likely what you're going to look like on television
Right,
or on a movie
sense.
screen.
Yeah.
So if you've got a bad side or the camera is adding, 5-10 pounds, like let's put it all out there.
Right. Yes. So you want to see what the audience is going to see when they
Exactly.
see that person. Right. Because if you see something completely different, how does that help in any way? Right. Because now they're going to get out there and then they're going to show up on film and you're going to be, that doesn't look anything like what they wanted me to bring them.
Kind of like when you don't look like your headshots.
I talked about that last week. Yes, absolutely. So if you want to say something about that, it's
your marketing material is what gets you the job. And what gets me in trouble is when you show up to set and you don't look like your marketing material. So remember that, guys. I want to keep my job.
right. I said exactly that same thing. If you are the girl next door or guy next door, don't show the sexy kind of, shirt unbuttoned or, the beach shot or something, if that's not who you really are in real life or who you want to portray on screen. So, yeah. Let's see. We got something here. As a casting director in this time, sure you might be seeing a lot more self-made reels or reels actors hire writers and actors to have made because it takes some time over a year for any footage. Do you have any preference or opinions to share on this? The reels of, I guess, them creating their own stuff.
I think it definitely gives you something to put out there for yourself. I don't know if it's necessarily viewed as a reel would be if you have theatrical experience, but I mean, if you can get in a studio or just, create a creative space to make yourself vulnerable enough to at least try, I'm willing to watch it.
Okay, great. There you go. Obviously, Kylie is just too shy to actually get on the radio with us and call that question in. So don't worry, Kylie, I got it for you. Caesar, how you doing? Pat's on here. Everybody's on here now. That's great. All right. So green screens, good microphones, memorization of lines, great headshots. Just talked about that. Sizzle reels. What's most important to you when someone is trying to get a role with you? What's most important? Is it all of those things? One of those things? Is there something that just absolutely drives you crazy if they don't have a green screen or there's a dog barking in the background? What makes them look best as an actor or worst as an actor? Worst.
The worst is.
The worst is.
I think one thing we all need to be just aware of is use your brain. If you don't think you would want to watch it or want to see something or hear something, I probably wouldn't either. So if you're standing in a room and you have an unmade bed and you have laundry everywhere, who wants to see that? We don't. Which you'd be surprised at the self-tapes that I receive where those things do very much exist. I think just having a nice quiet space that's well lit, make sure your shadows aren't crazy. I don't so much necessarily care if you have a green screen or a blue screen or a bed sheet or whatever. Let me know that this is important to you. If you can convey that through how you're dressed, how your hair is done, all of the things that help you present, yourself because you are the product, I can kind of see, through these things. If there's an initial talent there, if I see you're working, making efforts to only better yourself, you're somebody that I'm going to be willing to continue to follow, even if I'm giving you tips along the way, like, hey, maybe switch that up, or hey, maybe try this, or hey, do you have a ring light or a tripod, or giving you little tips along the way to help you be better, because you don't know what you don't know either. But you can also do the research. You also have these resources available to you online, and you're just becoming fruitful in the community.
Okay, and that's a lot of great advice. But, and I'm sure you get a billion people submitting to you all the time. Do you give advice back to people, or if you're down to 10 actors for a role or something, do you reach back out to a couple of them and say, hey, I need to see this from you differently, or do you give a lot of advice, or is it usually I've just got so much going on, I just don't have the time to reply back to people?
I absolutely do when I can, but part of my job as a casting director is to provide the best possible talent for my clients. So I want to keep my, directors happy and the people who are trusting me to send them what they are looking for. And a lot of times as a casting director, a lot of people don't realize this. I'm not necessarily the one who has final say. I work cohesively with directors, with writers. Sometimes those are the same person. Sometimes they're two different people, with producers, with financiers. I'm not always the one that gets to say or make that final yes. So my job is to bring the cream of the crop and be like, okay, here's what we have to choose from. What do you like? What do you not like? And then I either go back to the drawing board or we do work with what we have and we tweak it. So absolutely, when there is time, when it's appropriate, we definitely want to make sure that, we're in communication with the talent we're working with. That's funny because that's true. And I don't even necessarily think of that when I'm submitting to a casting director, that they're not the kind of the final say. But when you were bringing me people for my movie, you brought me Corin Nemec and Jeremy London, and you and Juliette Reeves were bringing people to me saying, how about this person? How about that person? And the funny thing is, you guys were asking me. So I was the final say. Yes, I like Corin. I like Jeremy. Yes, let's move forward with these people. And yet then when I'm going and I'm submitting to people, I'm thinking, does this casting director like me? Is Carly going to pick me? And it's not always ultimately your decision. Like, how often is it your decision, would you say? It really just depends. I mean, sometimes I have clients who will say, here, do what you want. I trust you. And I think there's always trust with the clients that bring me on to handle their projects. But again, there's more than just one person to make happy. So I need to be the person that's kind of, again, I keep referring to puzzle pieces, but puzzling everything together to create the presentation. At the end of the day, I find my job to be the most successful when I can be a part of bringing someone else's vision to life. That's why I do what I do. I like being a puzzle piece in creating the bigger picture. But it's not just me that, has to do that. It is the talent. It is the writer. It is the director. It is, all of the crew. We, together tell a story. That's great. And Caesar had a question, but I don't think this was serious. How does she feel about bald actors? I'm going to assume that she loves them. I don't know. Bald actors? I mean, I try to keep you working, Dave. Yes, you do. And I appreciate that very much. And this is so funny. Okay, so I have been bugging you the whole time about get closer to the microphone, get closer to the microphone. And Melissa Coles just said that my sound is muffled, but you sound clear. So go figure. So you've been doing it the way. All right. Thanks a lot, Melissa. She's probably just busting my, she's just making fun of me, I'm sure. Maybe not. I don't know. All right. I will try to speak clearer for Melissa. All right. Everybody wants A-listers in their film. I was just talking about how you helped me get two great actors. Yeah. How difficult is it to get them? So it depends on what avenue you're taking to acquire them. If you're using a casting director, a good casting director should have relationships with top agencies to, be able to start the conversation, make offers, make pitches, that sort of thing. But it also depends on your budget. If you don't have a budget, if you're coming to me and you're like, hey, I want to make this movie, but I've got, $5,000. It's not going to work, guys. Everybody kind of has their price. Now, that's not to say you can't go in and, create what you feel is a fair offer and get a yes or a no or whatever. But as a casting director and someone who's worked very hard to build the relationships that I have, I don't want to make myself look like an idiot either when I'm going in and, lowballing someone. But if I have a solid presentation and something to stand on, and, maybe if I'm even able to say, hey, I know this isn't the usual, but take a look at this. This is the why, that sort of thing. It definitely helps. Another thing, especially on smaller budget projects, which is a lot of what we see in this market, is favors, friendships with the actual actors, who knows who, that sort of thing. Which is why on your project, the first person I called, I'm like, let's call Juliette. I knew what we had to work with. And I was like, this is what's going to get, what we need. And obviously it turned into something very different for you, but it turned out the way it was supposed to. And I think that, that was all a part of the stepping stones of, I guess, the learning curve, all of it, for where we're supposed to end up. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not, it's like you say, it worked out a different way, and it did, but it all worked out. It's interesting to me because when you say, I want to do a movie, and then you say, okay, well, how do I get it done? There's 50 billion different ways
to actually get a movie done. And I've had people now reach out to me and say, how did you do your movie? I want to get one done. And it's funny to me, it kind of comes down to just being a business owner. And, when you're a business owner, you just find ways to get things done, right?
Absolutely.
Like you were saying, I knew that Juliet was the way to make this happen. I knew she knew some of the people we needed to talk to and to make the connections or whatever. And you made it work. And to me, that's kind of the same thing here. When you're doing a movie, you just have to be a business owner because there is no real manual for how to do it, right? There's 50 billion different ways to get it done. So that's great. And then you always hear, A-listers are so difficult to work with. Do you find that to be true?
Not always. Not always. I think that everyone has a personality, as do I, as do you. And some days we wake up on a certain side of the bed.
Oh no, not me. I'm always easy to work with.
Some people get like a really good version of a person, and some people get a really bad version of them. So I mean, it varies. I have, stories I could tell, but people probably have stories they could tell about me. So
I love that. I always say that too. I say, I've got issues with one or two people, but I know they got the same issues with me in reverse. They think I'm a jerk for the same reason, or not a jerk, but just, it was a tough scenario to work together. I actually was just on set with an actor who, I had always heard, had a reputation of being very difficult to work with. I thought the guy was fantastic. He sat down, had a great conversation with a friend of mine on set about playing golf. Super nice. Talked to me about something else, talked to somebody else about something. I mean, this guy just went out of his way to be nice to everyone. And I thought, that's funny. I've heard nothing but horror stories about him. Greatest guy on the planet, it seemed like. If you hadn't heard any of the stories, you would have said, everybody must love this guy. So yeah. I can see it. Sometimes personalities are going to clash. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes you just, like you said, bad day for someone, right?
Exactly.
We've all had them.
And I think on the end that I am, in casting, typically I get to see the best version of people. Because when you're dealing with A-list celebrities, it's not even always that they need the money, because most times they don't. They have to just be really passionate about the project you're creating. But if they want to be a part of it, then they're going to be nice to me because I'm, again, the puzzle piece in between.
That's great. So do you find a lot of the A-listers, or forget A-listers, just a lot of the actors or crew members that you work with, do you find that they have a lot of passion projects that they want to be a part of?
Absolutely. I mean, the project that I'm working on right now, Mother Nature and the Doomsday Prepper, we're specifically going after actors who, have somewhat of a real life connection to what this storyline is about, which that's not information I can really, divulge into. I know you're privy of this because you were there at the table read, but, it's very much about the personal connection a lot of times, with projects and content and, really trying to find the best way to pair everything together because to an extent, I'm a salesperson. I'm either selling,
Absolutely.
My client's story or I'm selling an actor to my clients. So part of my job is to figure out, okay, how do we, make this full circle? How do we make this make sense?
So do you get a lot of actors or crew members that say, normally I won't go on set for less than this, but you know what? I just love this film. And not that filmmakers should be, playing to the heartstrings and trying to get someone for that reason. I'm just curious though, do you find that it happens like that every now and then? Sometimes.
I mean, I think people like to throw that in there. Well, normally I wouldn't do this, but for you,
yeah.
Just because it's a little bit of an ego boost. But no, we absolutely see people giving and taking.
That's nice. I like to see that sometimes, because there are jobs that I'll go to that, I'm kind of lucky. I'm retired, so I've already made my money in my other businesses. So this is fun for me. I still want to be the best I can. I want to be, I want to be the next Robert Duvall or whoever. But at the same time, there are some jobs that I'll drive to Texas for something if I say, hey, I just want to be a part of that film because it looks awesome. There's some actor I want to be in it with or whatever. So it's just nice to hear that there are people out there that are kind of that same thing. They're like, I just want to be a part of this. It's a fun project. It's a good project. It's something I believe in. Okay. Do you prefer going after the A-listers, or do you prefer doing the hundreds of background people, or does it go back to whoever wants to hire me? If I can get it done, I'll do it for you.
The answer is no to what you last said.
You don't like the hundreds of background?
No, I don't. No. I was saying, you were saying whoever wants to hire me.
Oh, okay.
That's not how I vet my projects. So I actually, which a lot of casting directors, again, would not say this, I don't mind background work because that's where I got my start. And the way that I've built my company, as it's grown and as I'm now in a place to, now be with the Casting Society of America and, be the principal casting director on projects and whatnot, I've built my company up to where I never have to not have to, but I never plan to, should I say, get rid of the division of background, regardless on if it's me handling it or, one of my assistants or, maybe an associate in the future. Just because I think, one, it's fruitful from a business perspective. It allows me to have my name, my company's name in more projects and have more outreach to talent as they are coming up. But I mean, in a market like this, I'm going to get more of those kind of projects just in Florida than I am those principal casting projects. So it seems silly to give that up. And also when I can go to my client and say, hey, we can present you with a full service, product, if that's what you want to call it.
Right.
It makes their life easier. I think, the background stuff on the casting end definitely has a lot to do with paying your dues. But we have a streamlined process that makes it really easy. And it's like, why would I not? And I mean, there's people like yourself. I can just literally call on the phone and say, hey, you want to come work today?
And I'm not usually ever doing anything. So I'm always like, yeah, why not? So.
Yeah.
So, and, for until AI takes us all away, then you're always going to need background actors, right?
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Hopefully it doesn't.
I don't think it's fully going to take anything away, but we'll see.
Not fully. There'll be one or two of us left because they have to clone us.
It's going to be all Davids.
Oh God, that would be a bleak future for the film world. That's for sure. So, do you see the same actors over and over again? Do you feel like you see the same faces over and over again?
In the local market, yes. But I mean, when you only have so many people to choose from, it's a small little area. So I do get very excited. I love all my Florida people, guys and girls, but it is very exciting for me when I get to branch out. Obviously, New York and LA, it's always fun to do projects out of the bigger markets in Atlanta. But I love working in the Carolinas. I love working out of Louisiana. I actually got to do a Hallmark film in the town my parents were born in, just completely by random, where my grandparents still live and that sort of thing. I don't want people to stalk me.
You didn't think I was going to
outside of Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Yeah. Outside of Baton Rouge.
It's. I imagine because the film world is so small in Florida. I mean, I've only been doing this around 2 years, and I feel like I know almost every actor in Florida, it feels like. So you feel like you get to know everyone. So it seems like you would almost have to see the same actors over and over again. Do you feel like there's something that sets those actors apart? So like if you say, okay, I see the same actors over and over again, but like these 2 or 3 really just do something amazing to set themselves apart. Do you see anything like that, or no, not really?
Well, I mean, again, in the local market, you do only have so many people to choose from, bringing it back to that. But I think the ones who are actively, building their craft, and oftentimes I compare it to sports because this is your sport. This is your hobby, and it's kind of like the Super Bowl. If you don't show up to practice, play the full season, like do all these things right, you don't get to play the end game, the mecca game, the thing we're all, looking to be a part of. And it's very similar for the actors with having your marketing material. So, your resume is just like you were going out for a corporate job or anything of that nature, your headshots, acting classes. This is a muscle. Your brain is a muscle. You want to keep it actively, working and giving back to yourself. So I think for me, the people that I pay the most attention to are the people who are making themselves stand out with material I need to give them opportunities.
That's a great answer. And no pressure here. But do you have any particular acting classes or coaches that you recommend?
Absolutely. Eugenie Bondurant is amazing locally. I feel like all of the great actors in this area know her name and have probably been in her classes at one point or another. Andy Matheny, she previously was here in the St. Pete area. She still does training virtually. She's out of New York now, chasing her dreams as an actress. But for me, those are two of the stronger, acting coaches. And not to say that anybody is any less. I think there's a lot of phenomenal people between Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete. Lee Perkins is another, strong one. A lot of people, see him. If you're an acting coach and you're listening to this and you want me to advocate for you, shoot me an email. But that's typically, where I'll refer talent to.
That's great. And I think some people get frustrated because they feel like the same people always get cast over and over again. Is that just because they fit a certain criteria? Do you feel like that's not necessarily true? Do you feel like
some people are just easier to work with than others, and that's not anything personal? And I think that's what a lot of actors have to understand. And certain people, this is a business where you have to stand out. They have this charisma about them, this just something, regardless on if we can put our fingers on it or not, that makes them, attractive to us as individuals who are creators, are making, movies and making decisions and things of that nature. And maybe there's not an answer, there's no rhyme or reason. It just is what it is. And it's not even so much about playing favorites. It's about, finding the people who are going to show up, who are dependable, who can just get in there and get the job done, that, aren't going to be asking for autographs and, all this extra stuff that doesn't matter.
Right. And doesn't help you, the production, or them. Yeah. So Caesar just said, good question. He said, when submitting for AA, I think that's Actors Access.
Yeah.
What should actors write to the casting directors? Does that matter at all?
If you feel that there's something that we need to know, then obviously, by all means, share what you feel. But to be completely honest, if you submit, we're going to see it. So, it is what it is, that the platform is there for that reason.
Right. Now, do you usually look at what's written there, or half the time you just move
absolutely.
past that?
A lot of times it depends on how many submissions that we receive. But it's there to be seen. So I'm going to see it. Right.
All right. So only 2 minutes left. Let me see if we got any other big questions here that we have missed that I really want to make sure we get out. Do you ever get any actors that you come across that you absolutely love that you just can't seem to find something for them for one reason or another? Does that ever come up?
Yeah, a lot of times it has to end up doing with like an age bracket situation, or, again, nothing personal. It could be somebody who's extremely talented, but that's just not
too old. That's what it is. Too old.
Because
too
you
bald.
don't have hair.
It always goes back to there.
No, that's definitely not the reason.
David J. Paul just got in under the wire with Haley. What's up, people? All right. And this is kind of funny. I don't know if this is even worth asking, but do you ever have to tell an actor sometimes to stop applying to you? Do you ever get actors that for one reason or another are just doing something that you just have to say enough that's not a good fit for us?
Yes.
Do you really?
Typically, there's a line. If you cross it in any industry, you should know, what that is, regardless on if it's, being annoying or being inappropriate or what have you. I think it's just a matter of using common sense. If you wouldn't like it done to you, I probably wouldn't like it done to me. So you have my phone number. Doesn't mean you should use it.
There you go. All right. And we're coming close here. So last thing, any shout outs for anyone real quick?
Putting on the spot. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
What about Amanda? You're not going to say hi to Amanda before you go? All right. No, it's too late. Sorry, Amanda. All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much to Carly for being on the show. Fantastic show.
Thanks
Loved having you. Welcome here anytime. Next week, hopefully, we are going to be speaking with some young actors in the industry. So join us next Tuesday, 6 p.m. In the meantime, go get out on set.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
Listen.
U.S. targets Red Sea drones.
Shot down a total of 17 drones and missiles.
Israel expands its offensive, insisting
the war has to go on until Hamas is destroyed.
Winter blast in the country's midsection.
Make sure you have the correct snow tires.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Jennifer Kuiper. The impact of the Israel-Hamas war ripples through the region. CBS's David Martin has the latest.
Over a 10-hour period in the Red Sea today, the U.S. shot down a total of 17 drones and missiles fired by the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen at passing commercial vessels. The U.S. Central Command says the incoming projectiles were intercepted by an American destroyer and by jet fighters from the aircraft carrier Eisenhower. None of the ships was damaged, and there are no reports of injuries.
This comes after the Pentagon said it successfully launched retaliatory strikes against Iranian-backed militia groups in Iraq yesterday after 3 U.S. service members were injured in drone attacks. The Israeli military says its Gaza ground offensive has expanded into urban refugee camps. CBS's Robert Berger also reports.
The hostage families are certainly putting pressure on the Israeli government. They seem to be prepared for a deal at any price, which would mean emptying out Israeli prisons of 8,000 Palestinian prisoners and stopping the war. I think a lot of Israelis don't believe that that's realistic and that the war has to go on until Hamas is destroyed.
A top Netanyahu advisor meets with Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to discuss the war in Gaza. The heavy snow conditions in the plains are expected to taper off, but CBS News Colorado reporter Jason Adams says it's still slick in Denver.
Things have been cleared out on the main roads, but when you go and get to those side streets, this is what you will see. Roads that are still snow-packed and need to be cleared, which is one of the main reasons why you need to make sure you have the correct snow tires.
Sad news to report. Longtime CBS News Radio Washington anchor and reporter Tom Foti has died. CBS's Peter King looks back.
He had been a mainstay for CBS News Radio since 1998.
I'm Tom Foti. In a very rare, uncomplicated, and politically controversial prisoner exchange deal.
In a way, Tom's childhood prepared him for a career in journalism. His family's home in Budapest leveled in the middle of the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. The Fotis escaped to Austria and then the U.S. Tom later worked in news radio in New York, Washington, covering everything from government affairs to international news for WTOP, UPI, Unistar, and then CBS News, where he was on the air often and whenever he was needed. Tom was 77, and to say we'll miss him is as big an understatement as can be said. Peter King, CBS News.
Now this.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credits.
Did you ever think about hosting your very own radio show? Here's how.
Hey, Tampa Bay, did you know you can have a 1-hour program on the Tan Talk Radio Network for less than the cost of one 60-second announcement on many Tampa Bay stations? That's right. We'll put you on the radio for less than the cost of one 60-second announcement on many stations. Check it out today. Use your program to promote yourself, your business, or someone else's business.